Players are opening their wallets to get their hands on these reserve list cards. The continued weak prices in the reserve list is really inviting a lot of players out there to start buying cards. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me on the channel today. When I did the Hot 10 countdown this week, I started looking at all the card sales of the cards I could cover in a reasonable amount of time. I was surprised to find how many different cards were being bought, and in the volume in which they were being picked up, it was highly unusual. When you see prices this low, other players who are not normally attracted to the reserve list but maybe had a couple of cards they've always wanted to have are starting to buy into those markets in larger volumes. Prices have not reacted yet and haven't changed. They've stayed low still. But as more players become aware of the low prices and as word of mouth goes around that there are some deals out there to be had on reserve list cards, it will start inviting more players in and you will see an adjustment in prices. So how long can these low prices stay? That's the question we're all asking ourselves. And I'm taking as much advantage of it as you guys are, trying to get as many of the cards I've always wanted to have at the lowest possible prices to build into my decks. Now, in this week's Hot 10, we're going to take a look and see which were the hottest selling cards going down from the Yellow Brick Road to the Emerald City from number 10 to number 1. These are the Hot 10. Let's check them out. We're starting out with Thrull Champion at number 10 with 25 sales this week. This is a Fallen Empires card, one of the cards that reached as high as around $10 and has continued to plummet down. Now, if you were looking at this card on a site like TCG Player, you'll probably be surprised to see how few near mint available copies there are for sale. Moderate to heavily played copies you can still get for $2 or $3 right now, making it an affordable card for somebody who just wants to have some of the good old cards they may have heard about or wanted to build with for fun. As I'm building a Throwbold, which is Thrulls and Kobolds commander deck, it's a little bit of janky fun. You don't take it too seriously, but a card like this could become broken. I've always said that. Because it can take control of other Thrulls just by tapping, and it gives itself its own +1/+1 as well as other Thrulls out there, and it's not legendary. You know, decks back in the day would have 4 of these in them. Who knows what fun could happen if they really get in and give us some Thrulls like in Dominaria Unite. I'm sure I'll be paying attention to the spoilers as I'm telling you guys this to see if any Thrulls or Kobolds come on up through the ranks. I'm looking forward to it and I really hope they do. But 25 sales is surprisingly high. It's been in the list a lot for this card because the prices keep going down and players are grabbing a playset of 4 for less than $10. It keeps the sales high even though the price is not really adjusting yet because nobody's buying the heavier near mint copies that have the higher price. When you're buying the bottom of the barrel, prices are not going to change. The market just says, somebody's buying 4. It's when you clean things out or buy a couple of $15, $20 near mint copies of something that maybe has never seen those levels, that's when the price will start to turn. Interesting times, okay? But remember, Thrull Champion is a 1 black and 4 generic. This is a pretty, you can put it almost in any deck back in the day. You didn't have to go with just mono black, which was nice. It had a little bit of playability. Nowadays, it's kind of a throwback nostalgia card. A lot of players don't take it seriously for obvious reasons. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 9 this week, and that is going to be Taniwa. Taniwa? I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, but 26 sales this week. When you look at this card, I was surprised. Somebody on my channel let me know about it. It has phasing and trample. It's a 7/7 for 5. At the beginning of your upkeep, all lands you control phase out. So it's kind of a give and take, you see. But there might be reasons why you want your lands to phase out. Remember that. You know, back in the day, we used to use a card like this and we would like nuke somebody's lands because ours were phased out. It was a lot of fun. It was a good time back in the day. I'm not sure how much play it sees right now, but it's a pretty affordable card for less than $6 US to buy it. I mean, I can see why somebody might want to grab a few copies and have a good time. But financially, this is one of those cards. It's kind of like a janky middle ground. It might see some play, it might not. Not in any serious decks that I know of. But at the same time, I could be wrong. Things can change. That's the best part about reserve list cards. It can change on a dime as soon as some other card comes along that breaks that card. Now, number 8 this week is, of course, Underground Sea, revised edition with 27 sales. This card has been slowly falling in price. It's almost made the Hot 10 3 or 4 times in a row. but it hasn't ever actually made it on. This week it jumps to number 8 because you look at those 27 sales and realize that a near mint copy is almost $1,000. Well, it's over $1,000 Canadian for near mint. It's like $1,100. But you look at this and it's $822.15 US. It's kind of like that market price where the average is $841.32 and it's €501.85 to get this card. You are talking almost $20,000, give or take a little bit, right here in sales this week on buying 27 copies. Look at how much capital, how much cash, shekels, whatever you want to say, are being tied up into this card. Guys, cards like this, you can find them in heavily played copies. You can find them a little bit cheaper if you look around, but I look at that card and I realize it won't stay there. This card will go up over time, as will most of the dual lands. People aren't paying attention to it right now. That's great. This card was well over $1,000 before. So getting a 20 or 30% savings is more than enough for some players to decide this is the right time. Because the history, the financial history of this card tells you it's not going to stay where it is. This goes back to 2013 when this card was like 100 and change, right? Look at this going up and up and up like a staircase. Guys, follow the math. We can see where this is going to go. Those who doubt, hey, sit out. Don't worry, you don't have to buy this. But for those who kind of pay attention to this stuff, I think we're headed somewhere. And this card, all the dual lands, they're going to be leading us there. Number 7 this week is going to be Badlands with 28 sales. That's right, beating it out by 1. This card's recently had a slight dip in price. I talked about it last week. And look, 28 sales this week because you can get it a little bit cheaper. These are the lower end dual lands that don't cost quite as much. $442.50 for the average. The market price is $433.51 US. Here in Canada, a near mint copy is $550 Canadian. Was the best price I think I found for a near mint copy. I think a heavily played was $360. Depends on what your uses are for the card, and that's Canadian dollars, guys. I look at that and say, okay, €289.49 will get that card into your house. But again, that little bit of a dip is more than enough reason for players to say, this is a card I'm going to grab, hold on to, and enjoy. It's going into commander decks. It's going to be sitting there. I'm never going to trade it or sell it because it just cost me too much money. And again, the value shows that it always tends to go up. Now, number 6 this week is Savannah. Do you guys see a pattern happening here? It's like people realizing these cards, should be bought, and they decide to dive in there and start picking up copies. Savannah's had a bit of a rebound. The market has noticed the amount of copies being sold this last couple of weeks, and it is reacting ever so slightly. The average price is $369.98 US. The market price is $369.74 US. Here in Canada, this card's around $500 Canadian for a near mint copy. You can get a heavily played copy, I think, for $360 to $380. Keep that stuff in mind depending on why you're buying it. But amazing to see that 3 dual lands have made it onto the list this week because these cards are valuable. After players tend to buy them, especially if they're not a rich player, financially it just makes sense to hold on to it because if you sell it, you're probably never going to buy it again. Okay? Players I know who have sold off collections like this find it very difficult to get back into the higher level Magic because they've sold off expensive cards. Now, so Devi Excavations from Alliances is on the list with 36 sales this week. It looks like some players decided to dive in and join the army of Sol Devi because, let's face it, the price has been like $10 for lightly played ones on TCG Player. And remember, guys, if you're buying anything on TCG Player, I do have an affiliate link you can tap on. Just go to my description of any video. You'll see my affiliate link right there in the description below. Click on that. It takes you right to TCG Player, and anything you buy, I get a little bit of a kickback. I think it's like 3%, which really helps out the channel for me to get cards, so I appreciate it. When you see that, guys, it's less than $10. The cards drop like, 63%, whatever, 66%, whatever it is. It's dropped really heavily, okay? I haven't sold any copies back, but more copies have been found and it's been restocked. I've worked it out to about $17,000 US would clear the market out of all the locations I can find. That's still a big chunk of change, but imagine if somebody did it. It wouldn't take much for a bigger YouTuber to do it, but it won't be me. I'll just keep buying what I'm buying each time. Way to go, Sol Devi Excavations. You're an amazing card, and you scry, and we love you for it, because that's just a great card. I mean, come on, we're back on Dominaria. Makes perfect sense. Let's go ahead now and take a look at the number 4 card this week, and that is Fork from Revised Edition, 42 sales this week. I was surprised to see this card holding strong and still getting continued strong sales. Even some unlimited copies sold this week, which was kind of crazy. The average price is still less than $50 US. This card should be so much higher than it is for what it can do. As a 2-red, copying spells, choosing new targets, and especially in Commander, this thing is just such a broken, kind of fun card to have around. And it's very, very playable even in today's environment. With all these crazy new spells that Wizards gives us, copying these things out can be so much fun. I love it. I can see why players want to have it and buy it. I know it counts as an interrupt, just count as an instant nowadays is kind of how they do it. So enjoy yourselves. Have fun with a good old fork. I mean, there's no knife, I know, but you know, so at least the fork. Now, the number 3 card this week on our trip down the Yellow Brick Road was quite a surprise to see Fastbond this high up on the list with 52 sales this week. The price again is not adjusted. It's actually still falling slightly. Great to see. People bought a lot of near mint copies of this card, which I found interesting as well because it is the better buy. At this price level, knowing this card's been like $75, you might as well spend the money and get near mint copies. They'll be the most desired later on by any players, investors, collectors. Now, here's where things get just a little bit crazy. The number 2 card this week is Sliver Queen. 58 sales. I did not see this coming. I happened to look at something I was looking for and noticed it and tracked down as many as I could, and this is what we got. Now, Sliver Queen has not been this low in quite a while, but the amount of sales this week already caused a bit of a rebound in the price you can see on the chart there. Don't forget, guys, Sliver Queen is a 5 casting cost 7/7. She counts as a sliver herself. Put a sliver token into play. Treat this as a 1/1 colorless creature. Putting sliver tokens into play. So much fun. Adding to your sliver army. It's amazing, guys. To see this many sales, just it warms the heart to let people know there's a lot more sliver decks being built out there to just rampage through the multiverse. I love it. I love seeing this stuff happen. And the price is good. I'll be honest. We've talked about this last little while. People have been picking up the near mint ones and a couple heavily played just to play with. Guys, I can see why it's happening. Now, number 1. Number 1 this week. Let's get to this. Amulet of Unmaking. 115 sales this week. Okay, when I looked at Amulet of Unmaking, I told you guys, 5 casting cost, you can use it right away for 5, remove it from the game, remove target artifact, creature, or land, which means you can remove basically any of the main stuff, right, other than like enchantments. This is kind of cool, because you can get rid of all kinds of stuff. It does cost an arm and a leg to use, but when you're desperate or in a commander situation, this is not that bad. And causing recursions and making this thing come back, not impossible to do. So getting these for like 60 cents, lightly played, made a lot of sense, I guess, to a lot of you players because you bought a lot, but it wouldn't take much. This is basically $100 in sales. You see what I mean? Lower end reserveless cards like this, you can pick up basically for nothing. So people are buying some and saying, hey, at least I got one, at least I got some in there. I'm having a good time with it, and now I own some reserveless cards. And that's all it takes usually to get somebody started in buying reserveless cards. Players who recognize a little bit of value, a little bit of fun, and they want to have a couple of the low-end cards. You don't have to be a big-time collector to like buy into reserveless cards because right now, again, the prices have all come back down. The first bios we've ever gone through with most of these cards caused these spikes. But now back to $1 or $2 a card, a lot of people are starting to uptick the sales. It'll be very interesting in the next 60 days to see what happens on the reserve list as more of the higher-end sales take over, if it continues at least along this pathway, or if lower end sales will keep making up the number 1 card just because the sheer volume that gets bought. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me on the channel and going through the Hot 10 with me this week. These reserveless cards are pieces of iconic history. Don't forget that. And the players who decide they weren't worth keeping and they decide to get out when they could, they're probably going to regret it at some point like most of us have in the past. That's why we hold the line and hold on to these amazing pieces of Magic history. Thanks a lot for tuning in. MTG Mox, man. I'll see you guys later. Have an awesome day. And what would the end of a video be without a big shout out, a special thank you to all the fantastic patrons on the channel who make videos like this possible. They make the world go round. They're the special patrons of the channel. Shh. I know. Most people are still sleeping. It's early in the morning. Hope you guys had a good weekend. I hope you've been enjoying yourselves, staying safe out there, and having a good time playing Magic cards with your friends. Don't forget to have a coffee, cheer yourself up, take your dog for a walk, chill out with the family, and always, always remember, it's a great game.